Hey everybody, thanks for coming to another episode of Adventures in Angular. I'm Aaron Frost, the host, and we have on our panel today the wonderful Jennifer Wadella.
How's it going?
We have also Jose Eames.
Hey everybody.
We have Brian Love.
Hi there.
And back from extended leave, we have the beloved Alyssa.
Hello. Good to be back. Hey.
How was your time off?
It was marvelous. Got to spend it just hanging out with my newborn, and awesome. I'm ready to get back to work. I already have his passport. He's not even 3 months yet, and we're ready to go on, 8 trips before the year's end.
Good luck.
3 of them are international, so it'll be fun.
You're such mom goals for all the women in tech.
That's awesome.
But it is so good to be back, and I'm excited about today's podcast.
How many international flights with the baby?
Oh, 3 so far, but more probably to...
Just, will you let me know which flights you're going to be on so I can make sure not to schedule myself on this? We'll put you right in front.
He's a peaceful baby. What could go
As long
wrong?
as I can hug him, like a lot, I'll come on the flights with you.
Just 6 hours of snuggling.
No, dude, a kid, when I snuggle a kid just like, all right, I'll go to sleep.
I'm actually...
Like a water bottle.
I'm emceeing for Angular Connect in London, and they
are.
Hey, we want to help you. We know you're, new mom breastfeeding, and they're like, can we pay for someone else to come out with you? And so they're paying for my sister to come out with me and help me with the baby while I'm emceeing. And so my sister's actually putting together goodie bags that says we're so sorry if he's not as cute to you guys as he is to us. It's his first international flight, and it's things like Tylenol or earplugs or candy for the people around us. So she's a thinker.
Definitely a good idea, so that somebody has something to chew while they hate every bone in their body. They'll be like this. This is the most delicious piece of hatred I've ever consumed.
It's not that bad, especially if he's a chill baby. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We'll see. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
The only person in this room giving you reality, Alyssa, is me. I'm the only person giving it to you straight up. Aaron, BS. Full on, 100% BS. It's hip deep.
No,
once again.
I'm going to call bullshit. Newborns, they're either tired or they're hungry, and they cry for that reason. And newborns can be somewhat pacified. You argue with a pissed off toddler, and you're going to have somebody screaming and kicking your seats for 6 hours because they can. Toddlers are way worse than newborns.
I don't know. I think that they have a tough time competing with vegans. Toddlers and vegans. The two of them, they will argue the most by far. Right? It's a toss-up. Which one's going to argue the most?
I was on a plane with a 14-year-old kid who kept spinning his fidget spinner and dropping it on the floor, and he had to bend over once every 60 seconds to pick it up off the floor. I almost
just pick it up and take it.
How much could I buy the fidget spinner from you for? You want $20 for your fidget spinner? Anyway.
Sorry, that was a really long welcome back.
Yeah. All right, and then as our guest, we've got the amazing, all of us know you, we love you. We have Leonardo Zizzamia here to talk about Perfume. Leo, can you introduce yourself? I know most of the listeners know you, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you all for inviting me. As already said, I'm Leonardo Zizzamia. At the moment, I'm here in San Francisco. And recently, I joined Coinbase, where I am the web tech lead, highly focusing on public pages, growth, internationalization, and localization. And I've been also focusing here in San Francisco to the local Angular community, where with Minko and some other amazing folks, we run the Angular SF meetup. And recently I started this new adventure of organizing the first international Angular conference in Rome, which has been exhausting, but it's a fun adventure. It's gonna be in October, and just pray for me.
This episode is sponsored by Sentry.io. Recently, I came across a great tool for tracking and monitoring problems in my apps. Then I asked them if they wanted to sponsor the show and allow me to share my experience with you. Sentry provides a terrific interface for keeping track of what's going on with my app. It also tracks releases so I can tell if what I deployed makes things better or worse. They give you full stack traces and as much information as possible about the situation when the error occurred to help you track down the errors. Plus, one thing I love, you can customize the context provided by Sentry. So, if you're looking for specific information about the request, you can provide it. It automatically scrubs passwords and secure information, and you can customize the scrubbing as well. Finally, it has a user feedback system built in that you can use to get information from your users. Oh, and I also love that they support open source to the point where they actually open sourced Sentry if you want to self-host it. Use the code devchat at Sentry.io to get 2 months free on Sentry's small plan. That's code devchat at Sentry.io.
Okay, so you recently started at Coinbase. I have a question.
Yes.
How many crypto kitties do you own?
Oh man, 0.
What?
Really?
Because I'm not into kitty.
Well, I say this. There's 2 types of people you can trust. Good people and people who like cats. And no, there's 2 types of people in this world. Good people and people who like cats. So I think I'm with you, Leo. Yeah. You're my kind of person.
I'm with Leo too.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about CryptoKitties is an amazing way to understand better how Ethereum and other type of like smart contract works. And it's just a fun way to understand better what cryptocurrency and blockchain is, even for young people. You just show them some kitty, you tell them that you can collect them, that each one is unique for specific reason. You can go very deep, talk about cryptography, other stuff, but it's a very nice way to start off. And you can start collect like Pokemon.
Yeah. Don't go too deep. Don't give us the real education. We want just talk to us about the cats, the avatars, the money avatar.
Fun story is I don't remember exactly the price, but some of those kitty they were sold or traded for a huge amount of money. We talk about maybe I think the most expensive one was $100,000.
Oh my
What?
goodness!
No way.
Are these like stickers or plush toys or what?
Oh, whoa! You don't know about CryptoKitties?
No.
So they were built on the Ethereum platform. Was that 2 years ago? That's why I have a Coinbase account, was so I could manage my Ethereum for CryptoKitty buying. But so they're like these digitally unique cats you can purchase, and then the cool thing about it is understanding how to make transactions in Ethereum and what that actually mining process kind of looks like.
Okay.
And they're cute.
And I can exchange the cat. I can exchange the cat for money.
And you can breed cats and like maybe more cats, and they're all genetically unique. Anyway,
I am so looking this up. Thank you. That was like I'm learning so much
Googling this
already.
now.
yeah, I was like super like stoned on cough syrup, like working on an unrelated conference talk, and just built like a website about my CryptoKitties for that talk.
So for the record, I said your last name the same way you said it, Leo.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was the same.
Officially.
Nailed it. You nailed it.
100%.
Except for he had like 1,000% more coolness in his voice when he said it, but like
That's like the 3rd time I've introduced him in my life, and every time I said it wrong, I just realized how wrong I said it was right now.
That's fine. You still have other 10 credits.
Yeah, okay. Pronunciating other people's names is not one of them. I got Love down. Brian Love, I got it.
Boom. Easy.
I can't say Alyssa's. I say Jennifer, I call her Jen half the time. Jose, like literally, I'm like 50-50 on just this panel. I'm bad with names.
Well,
You got Joe's down, I hope.
I got Jose Eames. I got it.
The thing about names is I usually don't correct anyone that I don't interact every day, but as soon I start interacting with someone every day for work, I'm just like correct them all the time. Till the point that actually my friends start correcting for me.
That is so funny. I have a hard time with that because like if you see them more often, then it's like more, for me, embarrassing to like correct them. So then I'm just like, I'll be whatever you're saying. That's fine because I don't.
And that was my thought for the first. So I've been in San Francisco for over 7 years now. And for the first 3-4 years, I was like, yeah, whatever, just call me whatever you want. And now I'm like, nope.
you got over it.
You can screw up on my last name as much as you want, but my name is the only thing that in the office, I make sure that they say right. Instead of say Leo, just say Leo.
Leo.
I like
Of course.
Really?
Better.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's fun because in the office when there are meetings and there is someone that maybe is from a different team, so we don't work together very often, she or he maybe screw up my name, and my coworker, they're like, oh, no.
That's perfect. If you can get other people to do it for you, that's perfect.
And then just like I laugh inside, like.
You have like a crew of people. You kind of like on the payroll. Hey, $5 every time. Jennifer just threatens to break your knees. So yours is way more peaceful.
Basically the same approach. Yeah. No, her approach is the same.
Oh, right? No, I think one is giving you a carrot, one is giving you a stick. Right?
Yeah, it's essentially the same.
Well, maybe like steel toe boots instead of a stick, but yeah.
I'm having like a great time. I think what is happening in San Francisco, it changed quite a lot in the last 5-7 years, where I think there is more infusion of different culture than ever, because there's so many open positions that we literally can't afford to just run all the companies with the people that we have here. So we just like import literally people from different city, different states, different country, different continent. So I see that now they just like everyone try to get to the same kind of like love, or like, okay, let's collaborate more together and let's just try to have a positive energy. And I like it. The city is not perfect. Trust me, it's not perfect. But on a co-working level, I see a lot of good things happening.
So
awesome.
How is Perfume related to Coinbase, or is it not at all related to?
Oh yeah, it's super related. We do use it every day on most of our main products. So Perfume is inside. So Coinbase overall, there is Coinbase, the main application, Coinbase.com, and you have Coinbase Pro, and Coinbase Commerce, Coinbase Custody, and some other stuff. But we, at the moment, use Perfume in the main app in Coinbase, Coinbase.com, and Coinbase Pro, and Coinbase Commerce. So Perfume is in production for millions and millions of users using it every day, where we just trying to figure out if the performance that we collect on our machine actually are the same everywhere in the world. I think the best about Perfume is when you have a company that it's international. Is something that you want to make sure that you want to not only see if your application is great on your laptop and on your Chrome and whatever is your best machine device, but also you want to just figure out if Latin America, Africa, Asia, my old town in Italy that there is not much internet, anywhere, just figure out what's the truth behind the real performance in the world. And Perfume is being really good to create, at least have a better auditing, especially for OKRs, for understand our priority, for understand are we just lie to each other, or we are actually committing to not only improve the performance to have a better product, but also keep the performance. Mm-hmm. So because performance, and that's we can talk about later. Performance, I believe, is not only something that you should focus one quarter and after forget it. It's a little bit like security. You're always gonna do some work to make sure that your website is secure, and you should feel about that for performance too. It should be a continuous job to keep the performance at a high level, and not something that you do once or twice per year. And Perfume is definitely we can talk more about it later, but it's one of the many tools that you can use to have more clarity and understanding on this.
So can you tell us a bit more about what Perfume does, like what metrics it tracks, how you use it on a daily basis?
So Perfume is literally just a very small library written on top of the existing web API, the Web Performance API.
Okay, can I pause you there?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what this web API is for people who maybe have no familiarity with it?
What happened is in the last 4 or 5 years, the Chrome team and some other companies, they've been working on standardize what are this performance API and making sure that we have some native way to just like measure exactly how much time you take to do anything on the web. To go a little bit more specific, when you calculate time, you need more a precision way to measure it. You're not measuring only about millisecond, but you're trying to get that extra zero. The extra zero, so you can really go in an accurate way. That window.performance, it's where you start. It's the first object, which there is a different perspective where you can do performance.now, which is a little bit like a date.now, but better. It's a way more accurate way to measure time. And also there are some extra things like performance.mark, which people is very famous for what, for example, the React tools they do. Like if you use a React app, you probably will see on the dev tools how much time every component takes to render. Well, that cute little thing on the dev tools, it's actually a mark. It's a user timing metric. And all of those, they are just on top of this web API, which Perfume try to use them. And other API this is the beginning. There is performance.now, performance.mark, and also we have something very new. We have something very new that is actually the most interesting part, that is the performance observer. So recently we've been using something like intersection observer. All these things are a way to collect information from the browser in an async manner. And the performance observer is just a way it's just like the gateway, where you can connect with the browser and tell the browser, I want to observe X, Y, Z, and when they are ready, please give it back to me. So what is happening now, there is a bunch of drafting and experimentation happening in the browser. The Chrome team, of course, is leading this. And at the moment, it's highly focused to one in particular, that is the painting time. And the painting time is divided by two metrics, first paint and the first contentful paint. Eventually, we're gonna also have a first input delay, which at the moment is supported by a polyfill, and eventually it's gonna be supported by the performance observer. So to just make it short, the performance observer at the moment is still an experiment, or is still an API under experimentation, but eventually it's gonna become more and more a big deal, because that is gonna be a good place where in an async manner, we can collect data without stressing out our web application. Because to close this part, what happened in the past, every time we were measuring performance, like 7 years ago, you were blocking the thread. You were blocking the thread and was causing the application to slow down because you were doing some calculation. In this new version of API, they are trying to rethink what went wrong. How can we do this thing better? We don't talk anymore about document upload. We don't talk anymore by things we used to believe were the truth back in the day. But back in the day, used to exist like single page app. There wasn't a server-side rendering. A bunch of stuff were not thought for that kind of API. So these are the API that they are thought for what is the web today. We're still under experiment, but there's already some interesting win that we can talk more about it.
So you talked about a couple of the paint, like the important,
the
first paint and the first contentful paint.
So when a page starts to load, it's just a white page for a second, right? For a while, Yeah. And then eventually we get two different types of paints. And I just kind of want to say this because there's listeners who don't know. We get kind of this first vomit paint of like some things. It's not nothing, but like something's happening. Like I at least I haven't 404'd, but something's happening. And then you get this other paint, like this one where it's like, all right, now I have things I can interact with, right? And so Perfume helps me get better at that, or kind of help explain it at a different level. What is Perfume helping me do? Like understand.
So Perfume is helping you to not worry about what the web standard. There is a difference between implementation and web standards. The web standard said we should handle this, and these cases, but the implementation probably doesn't handle all of them, or didn't discover some problems that actually related. So Perfume, I'm pretty much like following the web standards, using the implementation, and covering some of the bugs that the implementation didn't thought about it yet. The first paint, as you mentioned, is just like the first thing that really happened. Like it can be the change of the background color, and this is the first paint. The first countable paint is just like anything that is content, text,
Images,
image, SVG, canvas.
Yep.
Sometimes it's the same time. Other times can be just slightly different.
Okay.
Okay. So I've played with paints with like building out things optimally in like CSS. So anything that you're building like with pseudo elements, or you're like trying to like do something really cool in the browser, but like it's not actually elements. Does that count as like, would that all be underneath the first paint?
If it's a canvas or an SVG, it counts.
Okay.
And it is first paint and first countable paint. In the end, to make it simple, I always say focus only on the first countable paint.
Okay, so these metrics are measured in milliseconds, correct?
More than milliseconds.
You got measured in a unique date time, which I forgot the name. But it's more accurate than millisecond.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you like frame for our listeners what an appropriate window they should be shooting for in these metrics are? Like at one point, should they start to be concerned about the performance detected by Perfume?
The best thing is the first contentful paint. Usually on your laptop, if you're just showing like a simple website with a blog, it may be gonna be like around 300 milliseconds, and that's a good time. But what
that's basically just due to network latency, right? Until you get that first.
Yeah.
Right. That's the 300 seconds that we're waiting, right?
Yeah. Everything that is under a second, that's good. But the truth is, there are two different type of metrics. So we know that, so Perfume, to just kind of like do a step back, all these metrics are focusing on the field, on the real user. The reason we need this API is because we are collecting the information between all the users in the world. When instead, Lighthouse, DevTools, web page
just local.
Just local and just focusing on your machine, and maybe they try to emulate some sort of like slowdown, like let's slow down the network to a 3G network, let's slow down the CPU to a low-level device. And it's interesting that usually Lighthouse, if you have like less than 1.5 second on 3G, it's at the moment is a good first contentful paint. And anything that is lower than 5 seconds is a good time to interactive, which is a different metrics that if we make it, there are many metrics at the moment, over 7-8 different types. But if we want to just make it very simple, you always have to remember two. First contentful paint is the first thing you see in the page. A time to interactive is the last thing you see in the page where actually you can use the website. First contentful paint on a 3G should be less than 1.5 seconds on a 3G. And on a 3G for time interactive should be less than 5 seconds. If you have these two, you are good. You're like the top 10% in the best website in the world, and you should go take a break.
But tell us a little bit more about how that. So you're collecting data from real users all around the world, and I assume you're collecting this data, using these client-side APIs. And then where are you sending that data to? Are we using something like Google Analytics, or what kind of tools are we doing?
That's full freedom. Perfume, it's an open source software that is just trying to help the gap between the not fully shaped implementation the browser doesn't have yet. And eventually Perfume is going to disappear. Eventually the Chrome API is going to be so good that you don't need a Perfume anymore. But it's probably going to still take a couple of years till we get to that golden point. Time to interactive, they tried 2 years ago, actually a year ago, to measure it in the field, but it was too complex and was actually slowing down your browser when you were doing that. So at the moment, there are only two metrics we measure in the field. When I say the field, is for every device that the user is using around the world. And there are first contentful paint and first input delay. So now I have to actually do a break because I have to change room. 1 minute.
You only got the room booked for a half hour? Got to go to another? Yeah, okay.
Let's see.
Now we get to see all the secrets inside of Coinbase. Did we have to sign NDAs for this?
Nah.
Can you hook me up with more crypto kitties?
And tell us about what you're drinking, good sir.
Pretty much like coffee all the time.
This is not beer. This is tea. I think on the last episode, Frosty was like, "Are you drinking beer?"
I guess, yeah, the solo cup does kind of.
It's like the solo cup with the.
Brian's drinking beer. Brian's drinking beer.
Look, don't be ashamed. We understand you have a distillery in your
all day. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's Colorado.
Yeah.
It's a good thing if I wasn't high right now. Then.
Then you would have got some soda or some water. But
yeah, exactly. But one or the other.
I think I just got a good handle on what Perfume.js is. This far into the show, you're welcome. I represent the users who are honest about how slow they are, just so everyone knows.
Slow.
Yes, that's who I represent. So Perfume.js, it is a wrapper around this API called the Web Performance API then. Mm-hmm. And because people like Leo are smart enough to care about the Web Performance API. People like me aren't. So Leo, and I'm not smart enough to in Firefox it's a way, and in Chrome it's another way, and other places it's other ways. So it sounds like Leo is bridging those gaps for us with Perfume and giving us. We only have to learn the Perfume API rather than all the web performance APIs that are continually evolving in different browsers. So I just learned what I just kind of grokked from what he's saying. That's what Perfume is, and so it sounds like it's an easier way to get into web performance monitoring for your app. Am I wrong?
It's real user monitoring. It's not local, start up my server, test it on my laptop, and emulate, slow 3G. It's like, what is somebody in the middle of France? What are they getting for performance, right?
Yeah.
So how do users begin to integrate this or use this tool? Is this something they can build into their CI processes or what?
So let's going back to, there was a question about where we actually bring this data on. I mean, we collecting data, we're bringing them. So there is flexibility. To just make it damn simple, I give the option to everyone to actually upload them to Google Analytics. You can see on a GitHub page, that's how you do it. But truth is, Google Analytics is not good enough to actually collect this information. You can do it, but it's very kind of beginner, and it's nice to have, but it's not a true story. My belief is any tool that you have that can be Datadog, Amplitude, Mixpanel, you name it. Whatever is the best tool that your company at the moment is adopting, it's a good enough tool. The only thing you need is just use one of the Perfume API and just set every information that you're collecting, just send it there. And after, on your tool, you can use them as you want. You can create an histogram. You can see only for a specific country where this information goes. And at the moment, for example, like Coinbase, it's very interesting because we can see the first contentful paint, Lighthouse is telling us that is, for example, for the public pages, is 1.2 seconds on a server-side rendering on a 3G network. But on average, between all the users, we know that in the United States, the metric, the first contentful paint is actually around 1.8 seconds or 2 seconds. It's okay, that's still pretty good. But we discovered that in different countries like Italy, we go around 2.8 seconds. Or in Australia, it's 3.5. In India, is around 5 seconds. And Nigeria, it can even go to 7 seconds. So what happens is, if a company like Coinbase, like Airbnb, like Uber, any company that cares about internationalization, you start figuring out, it's okay, what can I do to improve these metrics? What can I do to make sure that I have enough AWS server or whatever you're using, Cloudflare workers or Edge Lambda or you name it, and different solutions to make sure that the latency of your application it's lower in the country where you must care. For example, maybe your e-commerce, you are very famous in Romania and Brazil. So probably you want to make sure that your e-commerce works really fast also in these two countries. So this is very interesting to see. It's what I always say, Perfume, if Lighthouse is a unit test, Perfume is a functional test. That means you are not only measuring the tiny changes, you're measuring the whole thing. the latency between the servers, the latency between the serialization of the API, how long takes the machine, everything. And that brings a conversation where Perfume is not only about like front-end engineer, it's about back-end engineer, infrastructure, server reliability. And that's I always say Perfume is not the only thing that cares about performance. It's one of the tools, like Lighthouse, DevTools, the Chrome UX research. And going to the other question that was about, what was the other question?
Jennifer was asking about if you could integrate this into CI/CD.
Oh, yes. I don't think Perfume is the best way to do that. For the simple reason that I believe the best way at the moment under CI is the new Lighthouse plugin.
Mm-hmm.
So Lighthouse has the beautiful, wonderful plugin that you can plug them to Circle CI or Travis, whatever is your CI tooling. And then as a unit test, you can start plugging things like, okay, the first contentful pane should be at least this. The budget for the chunks, different JavaScript chunks should be this. You should not have any PNG or every images bigger than 100 kilobytes. You can create custom plugin, and I believe that is going to be the best way we can do this lab test. And that's the big difference. There's a difference between what you do as a lab test, as a CI, and a difference of what you're measuring in the field. And the two difference is because the lab test, it's meant to stop quick regression, where instead of this real user measurement, it's more about understanding where you should prioritize your work. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I was about to say that like things are so much clearer for me. That was a really good explanation.
So can you give us some really cool, like your favorite examples of, because you keep on being like, hey, the user in Bulgaria, or I'm like, dude, give us some juice. Give me some cool, like what happened?
So in Australia, for example, it's very interesting how every country, they kind of have the same. Like you have like the desktop version is, 3 seconds, and the mobile version is a little bit slower, so maybe it's 4 seconds. But the interesting thing is Australia, where on desktop, they have a similar speed of every Western country, similar speed of Spain, US, you name it. Any kind of like Western country, they have a similar speed. But on mobile, they go way worse. They go worse, and that makes you think, why in Australia is they have such a not good mobile connection? Well, it's a very spread country. It's a place where maybe they have a good Wi-Fi, but they don't have a good if you think about The Simpsons, they always make a joke between like from a town to another, there's a lot of space in Australia. And that maybe is a factor why quality of internet in Australia for mobile is less than other country. Like where in Italy, there is no space for everything. Well, literally like from one town to another, there is like one house. But anyway, and that's one thing. Another thing happened like a few weeks ago. I was looking the metrics, and Brazil, it was really slow, kind of like 4 or 5 seconds for first contentful pane. And eventually, for 5 weeks, it got really good. For one, like it became like 1.8 seconds or 2 seconds. I was like, and I went to other engineers in my team and said, did we change anything? Like we just go better in Brazil without really changing the code. So we still don't know about it. We think maybe we use Cloudflare. So we think that maybe Cloudflare did some optimization in Brazil and they just it got better. So that also is very interesting. Because it's a functional test, it's not always related to you. It's maybe just like the provider that you're using, they just have a better server in that country, and magically your website has a better performance.
I want something more specific. You keep on giving me these are just more examples of cool stuff. Tell me a cool thing that you did though, bro.
And that I think is one thing that I noticed is the human factor. We have different applications where I work on, and we got a good improvement. We went from 8 second first contentful paint back in 2018, and now we are on 1.8. So we did a drastic improvement based on lazy loading, better chunk, image optimization, you name it. All the famous one, we did all of them, and we did a drastic improvement. But what happened was I changed team, And as soon as I change theme, people start prioritizing less performance. And I mean, they prioritize other important things like a new feature and other things, but performance isn't the top thing. And you slowly see the performance kind of like
Going back up.
going back up. I mean, it's nothing bad. It went bad only for like 10%. But still, I think this is something very interesting where the human factor, it's something that we should remove out of the equation. We're still based in a company or in teams where you really care about performance, and for 3-4 months, they just go great. You go in vacation or you change team, and things slowly start kind of like get worse.
So, like when you're on the team, the graph goes down, and that's like Leo was here.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, Leo changed teams. Up and to the right, Leo was here.
But that's the thing. We
Up
can't
and to the right.
we can't live in a world like that. So we already decided that we're going to instrument better. We already decided that we're going to instrument better our CI by adding Lighthouse plugins, like all these things that I mentioned before, just because bots are great. Bots, they got to like keep everything in check. Like as we check like for ES linting or some other stuff, we should also have bots checking for performance. And that's because you have to remove the human factor out of the equation. And you need to create the classic performance culture. That's what we are working on right now in Coinbase. And we are trying to figure out, yes, we love this. How can we make it at operational level? How can we create a framework of things that works well for us?
I thought the key to performance improvement was to find all of your for each loops where you're iterating over 4 or 5 items and replace them with for loops, and that fixes everything, right? Isn't that the key to performance? Like,
one of the
you just look and you just decide, if I make this code faster, then my website's now fast, right?
Yeah.
I guess it's crazy trying to measure actual performance.
Micro optimization.
Yeah.
Okay, so off that question, is there any real low-hanging fruit that you've seen that has been caught by for Perfume.js that people could go and start making performance optimizations right away?
Well, the best low-hanging fruit that we kind of caught was what happened with Perfume was, because we can check day by day when something spikes, we were able to actually sometimes check in that specific day what PR we merged that maybe caused a regression. And it was interesting. We didn't check anything that went bad yet, but we checked things that went well. We saw like one day that we started going really down very quickly. And that was when we start like lazy loading our components, and we start, not our components, sorry, our route level components. And we start also doing preloading. Preloading and prefetching, it's so powerful. And if it's done right, so that means you only preload the route level and you only prefetch the things that you know that are like analytics or ads, things that are not important for the user in the immediate loading time, it creates so much value. Because think about this. Most of these hanging fruit are actually caused from like the from the SSL tree shaking. It's not tree shaking. What's called? Handshaking. So every time you have to connect to a new domain, you need to create the certificate in a way that you can start downloading things from this new part. And every time you do that, you lost like between 100 or 200 milliseconds. So if you start doing prefetching for all of those, or you're doing preloading for like your fonts, that's something that we notice that are low-hanging fruit that are really worth to do it. But one thing that I definitely say is before you work on that, make sure you actually tree shake correctly. I noticed that sometimes people are focused to all very advanced stuff, when the reality is they have Webpack that doesn't really work. Or thank God the Angular CLI actually does that for us. Thank God that actually my first advice is always like, if you're not in a CLI, please get in a CLI, because you don't realize how much you don't know about Webpack and how much the CLI does for you to just like taking care of this micro optimization, which turns your build in just the best you can imagine. But still, preloading prefetching is something you have to do manually. And you have to understand it to do it correctly. And stop having GIF on your web pages.
Never.
What?
Never.
So, hey, listeners,
I mean,
we're gonna edit that part of the podcast.
Yeah,
out.
that's got to be edited out.
Yeah,
I need you
sorry.
to clarify yourself there a little bit.
Rotating banners and GIFs must.
As a must. How can you have a sharp website without it?
So what you could do instead of GIF, you can have an SVG animation.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to make a startup that just
Can you-
does all Cardi B
You
gifts
would.
and SVG
Yes.
animation.
Cardi B SVG. JS. Cardi B SVJ.
Be sure and register that. Get on name sheet.
Yeah, you better do it now.
I got to do it now.
Do it now.
I'll
Yeah.
post looking for open source contributors to this project by the end of the week.
That's what it's called. Okur SVG.
Oh, SVG. Oh my God, that's amazing.
But that's the thing, like we didn't realize that, and that I think happens when you have like a startup that is growing really quickly. You start checking all these low-hanging fruit. We discovered that we had this beautiful GIF that was just like 3 megabytes. And
But it's so beautiful. It's
3
almost-
megs?
It's 18 times the size of your website, but it's so beautiful.
Listen. Obviously, all of you have your priorities wrong.
Yeah, get the GIF. Get the GIF.
But yeah, I strictly
What is it a GIF of? I mean, like...
Yeah, how
Yeah, what was
affordable
it, like
is this GIF, bro?
cat? I mean...
Is it like a GIF that has a Bitcoin miner? Like, why would you do this?
Well, let's just say that it's important. Get your priorities straight, of course. And if you believe the GIFs are more important, you should prioritize that.
For the record, he didn't say it wasn't a GIF with the Bitcoin miner, so
That's right.
I think that it probably was, just so everyone knows.
I can see management in a room. They're like, do we want to make more money or do we want to keep the GIF?
Oh no, they're on to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
what do we do? What do we do?
At the moment, I think there are beautiful libraries like Lottis and what Airbnb is doing by even just using After Effects to kind of like connect the SVG word with the CSS and kind of like blend it together. And, you know, for simple thing, you might just going to use CSS. For more complex thing, you can do SVG animation. But still, there is so much potential that I think like people still don't quite understand it. And thankfully, there are more talks and more libraries and more conversation about it, which is not even so hard. It's just like people don't know about it.
Right. So I have a question back to like the CI/CD with Lighthouse. Do you guys block PRs if it affects like a Lighthouse score to a certain extent? Like, is that part of your process or?
Yes. So at the moment, we don't have Lighthouse CI on place. It's actually something that we're going to work pretty soon. The only check that we do is the bundle size. So
like a budget.
we divide in different chunks. And usually for route level, we try to don't go over 80 kilobytes gzipped for every chunk that is route level. And for the bundle, for the main bundle and the main vendor file, we just try to don't go over like 150 or 200 kilobyte gzip. I mean, they're still pretty high, to be fair. Mm-hmm. But the point of like bundle size, it's the point about performance budget, that is what the Chrome team is talking more and more. It's not that you have to be perfect now. It's all about don't do regression. It's the same about unit tests and functional tests. You're not trying to write unit tests mostly because you want a perfect product. You start writing unit tests, regression and functional tests because you're trying to avoid regression. And that's what you should start thinking about performance. You should feel bad. You should not feel bad that your website is not perfect. You should just like, first of all, take a line and said, okay, from now on, we don't try to go worse than this. And we slowly keep moving the line till you feel comfortable with it. You feel comfortable with your customer. You feel comfortable with your user. And you feel comfortable with your sleep because you don't want to spend too many nights like waking up and like fixing your website.
Joe, you constantly have a line and you're constantly crossing it and you're constantly trying to move the line by crossing it. True?
What is that supposed to mean?
Well, I just heard Leo talking. I was like, hey, that's
That sounds like Joe.
That's Joe's talking. Leo's talking about Joe. Is that true?
Sorry, man. Your internet, you're breaking up. The internet's bad. Nobody can hear you. Nobody can understand what you're saying.
But yet, Joe,
I'm going through a tunnel.
So one thing that moving this conversation more about the Angular community, one thing that I try to do for the Angular was the same thing that people have for React now. So when you have the React web page, you can see like how much time every component spends to actually be rendered. So with Perfume, there is a nice like hook that you can set as a decorator, and you can figure out how much time it takes for every component to do the after view in it. And that's very interesting because you can figure out if this, you can even measure like if this component is taking longer time than usual to just like render in the field. You can calculate in the field, you can calculate in your localhost. Cool. And one thing that I was going to work with Matthias eventually, when he has more time, Matthias from the Angular team, is actually connect the Angular CLI with Perfume and just have it as default. Because at the moment, you should just like, you download Perfume, you do a small initialization, there is like 3-4 lines. But eventually, we want to figure out, can Perfume be part of the CLI? Can Perfume actually helping you for every Angular application to just have a default way to measure how expensive are your components? And when I say components, I mostly talk about route level component. That's the most important.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't measure a component that takes 1 millisecond to load. You're like, oh my God, it went from 1 millisecond to 3 milliseconds. No one cares.
How could I get it back down to 1? Yeah.
We talk about components that maybe take like 100 milliseconds. They went from 100 to 150. We talk about components that maybe you are like, that takes the whole page to be loading. The next step is trying to integrate even more Perfume with the Angular community. And any advice that you think Perfume should do for the Angular community, I'm happy to hear it.
Now, you've been helping the Angular community with performance measuring and stuff for ever since I met you, 6 years or longer, maybe. So yeah, you're awesome. Thanks for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm looking at Perfume right now and I'm like, yeah, I actually have real use cases for this right now. So this is fantastic. This is like a serendipitous timing of the show. So any last things you want to say to the listeners about Perfume.js or?
Well, the only thing that I think that matters is not about like Perfume. It's about performance culture. I believe that doesn't matter what tools you have. You need to find a way to instrument, in a way you prefer, your company to have a performance culture. And there are beautiful tools or way to do it. And the whole point is, how can we care about performance like it's security? You don't want your website to be kind of like unsecure. You should also focus to don't get your website unperformed, especially because we are getting to a world where Google is mostly indexing website only for mobile, first for mobile. And we're getting to a world where we are using internet more on mobile than ever. Mm-hmm. And progressive web apps is a thing. Many places in the world, we having like an iOS application or an Android application, it's too heavy. Cheap phone, they can't download, 80 megabytes of the Facebook app. I don't even know how many megabytes. I'm sure there is more than that. And progressive web apps, service worker, preloading, prefetching, all of those are all part of the performance culture that you slowly need to start, at least have a conversation with your team and with your company to learn about it and find a way to be part of it. And that, I think, is the most important thing. Perfume is just like something that you can use now. And eventually, in 3 years, we're going to use something different.
Cool. If anyone wants to reach out to you, what's your preferred way of having them contact you with questions?
Twitter. All the time. I'm always on Twitter. It's my last name that Frosty knows how to spell it really well.
At Zizzamia. Closer? Worse? That was my bad.
It was better than the beginning.
God.
So that was worse. I think that's what he was saying.
Zizzamia. I don't know, dude. I got practice.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and at Zizzamia. And my
3 Z's, by the way. 3 Z's in there. Don't leave out the extra Z.
My DMs are always open, so anyone that is listening can just like ask me a question, and eventually I will follow back. And I'm always happy to help out.
It's cool, man.
Cool.
Hey, are you working on a complex enterprise Angular application? Angular Bootcamp is an intensive 3-day workshop class to learn the basics of Angular through sophisticated techniques for real-world applications. They update the class regularly for the most current Angular, and a lot of the curriculum is also relevant to older versions. Or you can go beyond the 3-day class with help from Oasis Digital, the team behind Angular Bootcamp. They can assist your team or launch your project, including scalability, data flow, state management, service architecture, full stack product design, and a ton more. Or you can contact them for a private class at your location or attend public classes in cities around the US and occasionally in Europe. Online live instructor training is also available at angularbootcamp.com.
Let's move on to the picks. Anyone want to go first on their picks? I will go then. Okay, so I'm going to pick Potion of Flying. So playing D&D this week and about to get hobo murdered. Like it was about to be bad. And an army of 10 bugbears walked in for murder time. And I got nervous. And my guy's so dumb. Joe can tell you, my guy, it's so fun to play this dumb guy. He hurries and drinks a flying potion and then casts a bonfire underneath him and starts calling himself the Flying Viper. Dude, I just made it up on the fly. Anyway, instead of getting murdered by 10 people, I got an army of 10 followers that helped.
Oh, they followed you.
Yeah.
They followed you.
Yeah, I told them.
Okay, question, Joe. You're the DM, right?
Yep.
How does one decide that these bugbears, instead of murdering the flying idiot, they're going to follow him? Do you roll for that, or...?
The dice always decide.
Okay.
I absolutely have no control over the game.
Yeah, he just says, all right, roll a persuasion check, and I roll a check. I roll the die to see if I was persuasive, and then he rolls a insight check on the bears to see if the bears, like, saw my whatever. And if the rolls go good, they're like, oh, yeah. And then, like, I let him eat the dead humans. I was like, yeah. Just take him to the other room. You don't want to freak out the other humans. The other humans will get scared. It was weird.
I'll give you a little hint here, right? Aaron's plugging his ears and chanting, no, while I tell you this. Sometimes the DM makes decisions that the dice don't lead to because it just ends up being good story, right? That happens sometimes.
Well,
Aaron doesn't know. Don't let him know.
The DM I would play with, she would just look at me and be like, no, I'm not rolling for that. Like, she would just straight up be like, no. And I'm like, so I just appreciate it.
I'm going to plug one more, another podcast. Tomorrow, we are starting the very first recording for our D&D podcast.
Oh.
Right? We're talking about mechanics, right? And part of it is like how to be a DM and then things like this, right? We're going to discuss topics like this. This is DM. When somebody comes with a crazy idea, right? Like, how do you adjudicate that as a DM? Right? Mm-hmm. One of the many things to discuss on the podcast. So look for that. I'm not even sure if we've got a name for it. We don't think we have a name for it, but it'll be on devchat TV. It's one of the devchat TV.
Potion of Flying. Call it Potion of Flying.
You totally need to try and get Vin Diesel on there. That would be amazing.
Someday we're going to get big enough. We're going to have Vin Diesel come on as a guest.
He's like, does he game or something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he teaches like actors that he's on sets with, like how to play D&D. It's fantastic.
Okay.
It's called D and Diesel. Literally, that's a thing. D and Diesel.
Yeah, it's a real thing. All right. I'm moving my second pick. My second pick is there's a conference coming up in September. It's called RxJS Live. It's for the people out there that want to get better RX. They want to get to know the RxJS community better. And so I'm picking RxJS Live. The speakers are announced. It's going to be fun. If you're one of the people that's like, oi, I should get Baz at RX, do it. It's going to be fun. All drinks on me if you come. It'll be fun. So those are my picks. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. So my pick is the Get Up dance, and most particularly the submission by Harvey Bass.
Okay. Link will be in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll post the link right now.
How is the dance?
Have you heard the song, the Get Up?
No, but now I want to.
Okay, yeah, you will go down this rabbit hole. I was like deep in it the other night. It's fantastic. But so it's one of those things where like a song comes out and everybody like starts doing the dance and then submitting videos.
Oh, like TikTok. Got it.
Yeah, well, yeah, TikTok is one of the platforms, but yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we got the video in the show notes. What else, Jennifer?
Wait, I have to have more than one pick?
Oh,
what?
No, you got one pick. Sorry. I just didn't want to.
Did you all hear that? How he got himself out of Jen just then? That was excellent.
Don't make me get out my murder stick.
Got my boots on.
So
all right.
I have a pick. I have a degree, as some people know, in psychology and one in web development. And so it's kind of been a passion of mine to combine the two. And I found a conference that actually does that. It's called Anxiety Tech. And they specialize in talking about mental health in technology. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so I've got a link to it, and I'm going to be looking more into this conference, but I wanted to share it while it was still early to get tickets if anybody was interested.
Actually, one of my speaking mentees will be speaking there.
Shut your face! You know everyone!
I'm a proud mama.
That's awesome. I would submit a talk called "Delete Your Twitter Account." That would make your anxiety go down because Twitter is insane. All right, Alyssa, anything else?
That's all.
All right, Jose, you raise your hand.
Yep. All right. Very touchy-feely pick here. Being a guide. I'm going to pick being a guide and not being a leader.
Ooh.
Okay.
And I'm going to lay out. I'm going to take 20 seconds here and lay out the reason why. If you think that what you want in your life is to be a leader, what you actually want is to be a guide. Guides get everything that we think leaders get, right? Usually when we think of being a leader, we think of they're recognized, right? And everybody appreciates them and they're seen as an expert, right? That's not leaders. Guides are appreciated. And you know, you'll understand just by those words what the differences between those two things. You don't want to be a leader. The leader is the guy or a girl that everybody's like, they're just all about themselves and propping themselves up. But the guide is something that everybody admires, wants to be like, appreciates in their life, and talks about all the time about how amazing that person is. And it has an impact on the world and the people around them. If you want to make an impact on the world, you want to be a guide, you don't want to be a leader. So that's my pick. Being a guide, not being a leader.
Okay, Brian?
Let's go. Geez, I don't know if I can follow that.
Just say my name is Brian Love.
My name is Brian Love. That's it.
Pick love. Pick love.
I could pick love. I mean, there's nothing greater than love, right?
If you ever run for office, that's your campaign motto right there.
I'm just gonna write that down right now. So I have kind of a technical pick. I've learned about this new project called Async Pipeline. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but the idea is that you can use RxJS operators as pipes in Angular.
Wow.
Right? And do some logic like not length and this kind of stuff. So I'll put a link in the show notes. Check it out. It looks like a pretty cool library. I haven't used it that much, but I've been kind of playing with it, and I think it's cool.
Boom. Leo. Yeah.
Wow, you said my name correctly.
Leo.
Okay, I have a pick of a place that I'm going and a pick of a place that I'm helping. The place that I'm helping is the conferencing room. That is October 7th. So I'm self-advertising my first conference that I'm building. It's going to be in Rome, October 7th. It's going to be a lot of great food. And there's going to be a lot of people that you might already recognize. And I'm going to be still alive after that conference. So that could be the end of everything or the start of everything. You choose. And the place instead that I'm going, that I'm not organizing, is this beautiful GDG, this beautiful Dev Fest in South Italy, which is done on the beach.
Nice.
So in South Italy, they decide instead of doing a place in an hotel or in a huge kind of like meeting room, they decide to actually rent half of like a beach club for a whole week, and they're just going to do the Dev Fest in a beach club for 7 days, where during the day, half of the day is going to be a workshop, some kind of like a tech activity, and the other half of the day, you're just going to go enjoy the beach and a nice cocktail. And it's called DevFest Levante. So I just put the link on the chat. And I'm going there for the first time this year. I'm very excited to see a different type of conference, a place that involves also beach.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for coming. Leo, thanks for being a guest and letting us hammer question at you. And thanks for, again, your hard work on Perfume.js. I know it's not easy to open source something that popular. So thanks for all the time you put into that.
Yeah, pleasure.
And we will see everybody next time on the Angular podcast. Peace.
Peace.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CacheFly.com to learn more.